Good evening, this is Ann Diener, and I have been working hard on a research project, and I have been sending out information, and a lot of it on the stolen 2024 election, because we found out the exact vote total. It was 16 million votes that were stolen in the 2024 national election. And that is a serious number of ballots. And what they did was they actually took the old supercomputers that we had in California, and they required kid killing for false positives, and they were all done with the Rothschilds. And you can see my Palestine article on my website historically, and I still have to put the quote up about how they stole the land. Is it really here to steal my land? And they did that to lots of Palestinian farmers. And then they went in and used their supercomputing to credit these overlord-style guys who went in there and stole, like they paid people, the settlers, to steal their farms. And they did it forcefully and harmfully to all the native people. And basically, these are harmful individuals. That lady, Lynn Rothschild, is one evil lady. She then took those kid-killing computers that they used for false positives, and she put them at Donald Trump's home. And the Navy said, "What are you doing with those computers? Why are you moving them over to his home?" And she said that she had her rights and her abilities to do it, and yada, yada, yada. And always claiming to be more powerful than us. And in reality, they walked into Israel. They were outsiders who crept in. And they've been in the background with all these financial crimes for so many years. I mean, you look at the national debt, they are behind that national debt, putting in 4.5 unelected terms of Russian immigrants as presidents. And we have that up on my background check article. But here's the more serious part, is the 16 million votes that were stolen. And we're actively working on tabulating how those votes were stolen. Because they don't just steal an entire state, everybody's ballot. No, they go in and steal a certain percentage. And initially I thought here in Alaska, it was like 7% or whatever, a very, small amount, like it was 7,800 votes. And it turned out to be that they wanted to steal 60,000, and they gave them up to 60,000 votes that they could steal, which means Mary Peltola likely actually won her seat, but the Supreme Court that was run by the Russian government wouldn't allow her to have her seat a second time. And so basically, one individual who was a Republican said, when she was asked how many votes they would like to be stolen for them here, they said, well, just make it 56,000, and that way the apertures can be turned on, and they'll know we won or think that we won. It's all for the TV media to brainwash and program people that those were their results. And so basically they went in and stole 56,000 votes from Alaskans and took their ballots. Basically they were all just deleted, like my Twitter feed was originally. And so here we have 56,000 ballots missing, or stolen, basically, and elections stolen, the 2024 national election. And then we have $2 billion that was stolen from our permanent fund, which individuals are trying to hide, even through hiring other people or bringing in other people at the permanent fund. Some people are very nice, but in reality, they were just brought in to cover up the stolen money. And we know the individuals who stole the money. We've turned them in. So $2 billion, that's $2,875 per Alaskan, was stolen on April 7th. And that does not include the nonprofit funding, which if we prove the national election was stolen, and in reality it was, 16 million votes were stolen. I'm going to show you exactly how they were stolen, with these computing systems that had been moved to Trump's home by the Rothschild lady, by Lynn Rothschild. And you can see her there in the Epstein photos. And she brought them to George Bush's Crawford, Texas, or Mike Pence had a secondary home without his wife's name on it. And he also brought those machines in there on election night to have a hacking party, with Elon Musk also working there and hacking the supercomputers, using the stolen algorithms that were acquired basically through two break-ins. One, they likely asked to find out if classified information was at Biden's home, and we saw that in the media. They stole the computer expert's home address, and then Bush stalked him, then hired Enrique, and had this Mexican national break into his home and take pictures of the algorithms that they fed into the kid-killing computers. And that's how they stole the election, by hacking and stealing 16 million votes. And they weren't all stolen from, obviously, one state. They were stolen basically where they could tip the seats. They could steal the seat. Make sure you steal the House speakership, was said to Mike Pence, who participated actively in the hacking on election night, as we were getting out the votes. So I'm going to look down a bit, but we do have some interesting quotes about the states that were stolen from. We're reporting right now that they started out the steal in the state of New York. Initially, he said, I think, go ahead, let's steal 39,000 from there, and then 25,000 from there. So we don't know any of the races that were running. I don't know. I didn't pay attention to New York Senate or House races, but those were likely national races that they stole those 39,000 and 25,000 votes. If you pay attention to New York politics, look up two races that they stole 39,000 and 25,000, and please report in and let me know which seats they stole. And then on to Manhattan. They stole 1 million votes from there. I do have an exact quote, and I'll post it at the end of this video. Then he went to Florida, and he said, oh, I can steal 1 million from his side in South Florida. So that's another million votes. So right now we're up to 2,064,000 plus Alaska's 56,000. And then we have Georgia reporting, basically one individual, and I'll post the quote later on. He thought there was only 97,000 stolen from Georgia. And then Trump said, no, that's 970,000 we just stole from Georgia. So we're going to continue to work with the map of the United States of America and continue to figure out which states were stolen, which states had all their grant money stolen from them, which states lost through the stock market on April 7th of 2025, and which states they intended to steal by purchasing Dominion voting and changing it to Liberty. We intend to class action lawsuit these individuals for all the monies, all the ballots, and everything they've ever stolen. Since we know George Bush, Horace Philolov was a put-in president. He was literally put in. You didn't win. We'll just go ahead and put you in, they said, in 2001. And he served 2 terms as an unelected president. Basically in 2003, Ghislaine Maxwell made a faulty case for war when she went in and lied to grand juries about being able to see the Middle Eastern pilots from the overlord's plane. And we knew that Gordon Duff hired those Middle Eastern pilots. In reality, there was no war with the Middle East. Individuals involved in the intelligence community then said, what are we going to do when there's no Middle Easterners coming into this country with DHS and ICE? Oh, I guess we'll use them for Mexican nationals coming across, or he said, I guess we'll use them for Mexicans coming across the border. And so those 2 agencies are not needed for a stolen president who created a false case for war and who also continued to promulgate that long into the 2024 national election when he stole that from John Kerry because of the defense monies likely that he was being offered to continue the wars over there. And Bush, with Gordon Duff, intended back then to annihilate Palestine. And then they blamed me for 9/11. Let's blame her and continue the killing of the people over there. And for that, I feel very sad, and I don't know how ever to take that, what they said, but I demand a lawsuit. And I demand a lawsuit every day for you. I demand a lawsuit every day for Palestinians who lost their homes. I demand a lawsuit for every hotel that the Arab community built in Palestine, every apartment home that was lost to these evildoers and individuals. We demand a lawsuit. We demand a lawsuit for all the stolen down payments when they did the COVID. I mean, the Rothschild's lady literally brought in the infectious disease. Oh, since Rothschild lady did that, I'll go ahead and pay G for it, said the governor of Texas, Ken Paxton, and we'll change the computers, the supercomputers, based on his behalf. And I mean, strange things happened then. I guess Bush went to jail for a night while while Laura Bush expected to be paid huge sums of money for killing American people. 4 million lives were stolen that day. Well, not just that day. It was over many, many, many months with the COVID. And she said, oh boy, do we get to collect payment, we get to collect boatloads of money or something. I have the quote. I'll go ahead and post it for you. But they collected billions while we stayed home and didn't have work and lost our savings, as well as all monies that were put into all of the housing, the land grab that I talked about. Dick Cheney literally sat back one day and said he was going to calculate the down payment numbers that they earned through the land grab because they brought in cocaine to build the housing. And then when they did the COVID, the infectious disease, so these people built this housing basically with very little money. And so, but then when they did the infectious disease, and see, if you do a lot of marketing for housing, you build lots of homes based on bringing in, back then I was talking about $500,000 container ships of cocaine, and you convert it into money, like street sales. And they had the drug dealers in order to do it. Because they had cocaine networks that started with HW's cocaine network from when he came across the border as a Russian. He was into dealing cocaine in Mexico, and that's why he came here. He was on the run from the Federales. And his name was Alex Fililov back then. And then he ended up sleeping in a barn, getting arrested, and then Nixon actually let him out. He said, let those 2 Russian boys on out, and got them to work for the hard right by changing their birth certificates from Russian to German and then to American. And they converted their names, then to Wilbur Geertweiler, and then to George W. Bush. And Alex Fililov, I don't know if he had a second German name or not. I want to say it was George Scherf, and they just kept it as George Scherf, and then he went to George H.W. Bush. I don't know if he got the name Herbert. Maybe it went with Herbert Humphrey. I have no idea. But anyway, they're just imposters. They're not born in America. They don't qualify for their presidencies. And they certainly got involved with inflicting the contagious disease on the United States of America and killing 4 million Americans. I would like the pandemic time to be renamed the American Genocide, and it was a crime committed by unelected Russian pedophiles. As that's what these individuals are. And obviously they got together in Crawford, Texas to steal 16 million votes from the average American. And now we've tallied up New York at 1,064,000 votes. Florida so far, just 1 million from South Florida was stolen. 970,000 stolen from Georgia. And then we have 56,000 from the state of Alaska. And we do want to report our $2 billion was stolen directly from the permanent fund using stock market machines. Will you go ahead and get down these machines with the governor? The individual who did not win, really, by counting ballots, said, no, I wouldn't steal from my constituents that way. Trying to take pride in that state. But you know what? He didn't win the election by counting ballots, from my understanding. So we've got to really review this story and see what happens with our future elections. How can we monitor and make sure all the valid ballots get counted? The valid ballots, every single ballot with an American citizen, someone who's registered to vote, counts. This idea that they're going to scrub voters, I mean, now we know what they have done. They set up computers and were able to delete. And I do have another page to submit where they were actually literally targeting Republicans. They called the Republicans that they said, go ahead and hit those Democrats. Well, we target those who wanted to keep their money. So if you wanted to keep American money and change, like real money, like let's say a $20 bill, a $50 bill, let's say like a $100 bill. I like $20 bills. I get out cash all the time. And not huge amounts of cash, but it's fun to take to Rotary. And they wanted to eliminate anyone who enjoyed keeping their own money, as they are in with the Maxwell tribe. And you can see it. I posted it. I think it was on the Stolen Penny article, way down towards the bottom regarding the September 11th grand jury. There's a quote about Palestine, and then there's a quote about what she was given what Josane Maxwell was given by providing this testimony, in addition to $8.1 million. So providing fake testimony to a grand jury, basically lying. When I was in California, she said she kept calling Gordon Duff, who I wrote with at Veterans Today, and asking if he thought that she was going to lose all the settlement money, the money that she had received providing the testimony because of my truth stories about 9/11. And that was $8.1 million back then in 2003. Think about what that money was worth to date. And when you look at those transfers, like you look at the banking account records on the Chase Bank statements that I have, and that's, I mean, Adelson, they're all mentioned there. And when you look that Adelson actually stalked my company, he surrounded Diener Communications LLC at my home, at my office, on Evergreen Way in Everett, Washington, and he was the one who did it. And we found out something absolutely disgusting. Donald Trump actually slept with him to get rid of his Russian birth certificate. And Les Wexner was the one who arranged that. He arranged that for what he considered a young Russian man to get involved with their organized crime syndicate. And so at this point, I mean, we've proven they stole the election, they stole the money, they slept with syndicate members in order to get American birth certificates, in order to lie to courtrooms and to the American people, in order to steal from the American people. And we have proven that with the center of the United States, that they wanted to steal all your coins, all your money. They wanted to steal the penny, the baseline for our currency, and they stole a lot of grant programs throughout the country that are not just some kind of entitlement benefit or whatever they try to frame it as. These people count on federal money, and they have every right to have it because we build a government by and for the people, and we are a very rich country and intend to keep it that way. Have a wonderful night.